Is this the moment that perfectly captures how modern NHL front offices have become so analytically obsessed that they've completely lost touch with the basic hockey instincts that used to separate winners from losers? Or did 32 teams just collectively dodge a bullet disguised as opportunity? Friday afternoon delivered one of those hockey moments that feels simultaneously shocking and inevitable. Connor Ingram cleared waivers completely unclaimed, leaving 31 NHL organizations to explain why they passed on a goaltender who just 2 seasons ago posted numbers that would make most teams salivate with envy. The silence was deafening, the implications staggering, and the fan reactions absolutely explosive. What makes this story fascinating isn't just that Ingram went unclaimed. It's the window it provides into how dramatically the NHL landscape has shifted regarding risk assessment, salary cap management, and organizational decision-making. This wasn't a case of teams missing an opportunity. This was 31 front offices simultaneously deciding that nearly $2 million for a goaltender with obvious baggage wasn't worth the gamble, regardless of his previous success. The Edmonton Oilers, who had been prominently mentioned as potential suitors, joined the chorus of organizations that looked at Ingram's situation and decided their internal options provided better value than taking on his contract and complications. That decision has unleashed a torrent of fan frustration that reveals deep-seated concerns about the franchise's direction extending far beyond goaltending decisions. Oilers fans didn't just react to Ingram clearing waivers. They detonated across social media platforms with the kind of raw emotion that suggests this decision represents something much larger than a single personnel move. The reactions ranged from bewildered disappointment to apocalyptic predictions about the franchise's future, painting a picture of a fan base that has reached its breaking point with management decisions. Bizarre. Oilers just don't care captured the sentiment of supporters who see this as another example of organizational indifference to obvious improvement opportunities. But the reaction that truly encapsulates fan desperation came in the form of McDavid is leaving 100% LMAO, a comment that reveals how every front office decision gets filtered through the lens of their superstar captain's potential departure. The criticism directed at GM Stan Bowman was particularly harsh, with fans unleashing frustrations that clearly extend beyond this single waiver decision. Bowman and Bowman sucks represent the blunt edge of supporter anger, but they also highlight how quickly fan patience evaporates when expectations aren't met and obvious opportunities appear to be ignored. However, not every reaction was purely negative. Some fans acknowledged the complexity of roster construction with comments like "thanks for including the other players," suggesting at least some recognition that team building involves more considerations than simply claiming every available player who might represent an upgrade. The intensity of these reactions reveals a fan base that has been conditioned to expect disappointment, where every decision becomes magnified through the lens of previous failures and missed opportunities. This isn't just about Connor Ingram. It's about years of frustration crystallizing into a single moment that feels representative of larger organizational problems. What happened to Connor Ingram on Friday represents a fascinating case study in how modern NHL decision-making has evolved. 20 years ago, a goaltender with his resume would have been claimed immediately by multiple teams willing to gamble on talent overcoming temporary struggles. Today's NHL operates according to different principles entirely. The fact that all 31 teams passed suggests a level of information sharing and analytical sophistication that previous generations of hockey management never possessed. Front offices now have access to detailed psychological profiles, advanced performance metrics, and predictive modeling that allows them to assess risk with unprecedented precision. Ingram's nearly $2 million salary represents more than just a financial commitment. It's a cap allocation that prevents teams from pursuing other opportunities or maintaining the flexibility needed to address unexpected challenges during the season. In a league where every dollar matters and roster spots are precious commodities, taking on a player with recent performance concerns requires compelling evidence of future success. The analytical revolution has also changed how teams evaluate goaltending specifically. Raw statistics like save percentage and goals against average now get contextualized through expected goals models, quality of competition metrics, and workload management systems that provide much more nuanced pictures of player value and potential. This creates situations where a goaltender's previous success gets weighted against recent struggles in ways that often favor caution over aggressive acquisition strategies. Teams would rather develop internal options or wait for clear market opportunities than commit resources to players whose trajectories appear uncertain. Connor Ingram's $1.85 million cap hit might not seem overwhelming in isolation, but it represents exactly the type of financial commitment that modern NHL teams approach with extreme caution. In a salary cap environment where every dollar allocated to one player prevents spending on alternatives, taking on Ingram's contract requires absolute confidence in his ability to provide value commensurate with his cost. For teams operating near the cap ceiling, claiming Ingram would have required corresponding roster moves to create the necessary space, potentially meaning the loss of other players who provide known quantities of performance and value. The mathematics of modern roster construction often favor maintaining flexibility over making speculative additions that might not pan out. The Utah Mammoth's willingness to place Ingram on waivers despite his talent level suggests they reached similar conclusions about cost-benefit analysis. When the team that knows a player best decides his contract represents more burden than opportunity, it sends powerful signals to other organizations about hidden concerns or complications. Teams also consider the opportunity cost of roster spots, particularly regarding goaltending depth. Most organizations prefer developing internal prospects or maintaining established backup options rather than disrupting their systems for players with uncertain futures, regardless of previous success levels. This creates a market dynamic where talented players can become essentially untradeable or unclaimed not because of ability concerns, but because their contracts don't align with current organizational priorities or cap structures. It's a harsh reality of modern professional sports that performance alone doesn't guarantee employment security. The universal pass on Connor Ingram reflects how dramatically NHL risk assessment has evolved in recent years. Teams now employ sophisticated evaluation systems that consider not just on-ice performance, but psychological profiles, injury histories, contract structures, and organizational fit factors that previous generations of management largely ignored. Ingram's recent struggles weren't just statistical concerns. They represented warning signs about potential underlying issues that could impact future performance in unpredictable ways. Modern front offices have learned that talent alone doesn't guarantee success, particularly when that talent comes with complications that could affect team chemistry or individual development. The fact that teams like Carolina and Edmonton, both mentioned as potential suitors, ultimately decided against claiming Ingram suggests their internal evaluations revealed concerns that outweighed his obvious abilities. This could involve anything from concerns about his recovery from personal issues to questions about how he would fit within their existing goaltending development systems. Risk assessment now includes consideration of how individual signings might impact locker room dynamics, development of other players, and long-term organizational culture. A player who requires significant support or management attention might be viewed as more costly than his salary suggests, particularly if that attention comes at the expense of other roster players. This evolution toward comprehensive risk evaluation has created a league where obvious talent sometimes goes unclaimed because the total package, talent, cost, risk, organizational fit, doesn't align with what teams need at specific moments in their development cycles. Friday's waiver results provide a brutal but instructive lesson about NHL market dynamics and how quickly player values can shift based on performance trends and organizational needs. Connor Ingram went from being a sought-after goaltender to completely unwanted in the span of a single season, illustrating how unforgiving professional hockey can be for players struggling with personal or performance issues. The fact that 31 teams simultaneously reached similar conclusions about Ingram's value suggests either remarkable organizational intelligence sharing or widespread recognition of factors that aren't immediately obvious to outside observers. Either way, It represents a level of market efficiency that leaves little room for players to benefit from organizational mistakes or desperate gambles. This market reality extends beyond individual cases to reveal how teams now approach roster construction with long-term strategic thinking that prioritizes sustainable success over short-term fixes. The days of claiming players based solely on potential upside have largely disappeared, replaced by comprehensive evaluation systems that demand clear value propositions. For players like Ingram, this creates a challenging environment where past success provides limited protection against current concerns. The NHL has become increasingly intolerant of uncertainty, even when that uncertainty comes with obvious talent and proven track records of success. The message is clear. In today's NHL, being good enough isn't sufficient if you're not the right fit at the right price for specific organizational needs. It's a harsh reality that prioritizes efficiency over opportunity, but it also reflects how seriously teams now take every roster decision in an increasingly competitive league. Edmonton's decision to pass on Connor Ingram reveals fascinating insights into their organizational priorities and risk tolerance that extends far beyond goaltending concerns. Despite clear needs for depth and competition at the position, they apparently concluded that their internal options provided better value than taking on Ingram's contract and potential complications. This decision-making process likely considered factors that fans don't typically see: psychological evaluations, organizational culture fit, development plans for current prospects, and long-term salary cap implications that extend beyond immediate performance needs. The Oilers may have information about Ingram's situation that makes claiming him seem less attractive than it appears from the outside. However, fan frustration with this decision reflects deeper concerns about organizational direction and decision-making patterns that have produced disappointing results in recent years. When supporters see obvious talent go unclaimed while their team struggles with depth issues, it creates natural questions about management competence and strategic vision. The intensity of fan reactions also suggests a fan base that has lost faith in management ability to recognize and capitalize on opportunities for improvement. Every decision gets viewed through the lens of previous mistakes, creating an environment where even reasonable choices generate significant criticism and skepticism. This dynamic puts additional pressure on front office personnel to not just make good decisions, but to make decisions that satisfy fan expectations and demonstrate aggressive pursuit of improvement. The challenge is that what appears obvious to supporters might involve complications that make alternative approaches more sensible from organizational perspectives. Connor Ingram clearing waivers unclaimed represents more than just one player's journey from starter to AHL assignment. It provides a window into how modern NHL operations have evolved to prioritize analytical rigor over intuitive gambles that previous generations of management might have made without hesitation. The universal pass on a goaltender with Ingram's resume suggests either remarkable organizational sophistication or collective risk aversion that prevents teams from capitalizing on potential value opportunities. Either way, it reflects a league that has moved far from the days when talent alone determined employment opportunities. For the Edmonton Oilers specifically, this decision will be judged not just on its immediate merits, but on how their goaltending situation develops throughout the season. If their internal options struggle, fan criticism will intensify. If they perform well, the decision will be vindicated as smart organizational planning. The broader lesson involves understanding how dramatically NHL roster construction has changed in the salary cap era. Teams can no longer afford to make decisions based solely on talent evaluation. Every choice must consider financial implications, organizational fit, development impact, and long-term strategic alignment with championship goals. As Connor Ingram reports to the AHL and begins the process of rebuilding his career and value, 31 NHL teams will continue monitoring his progress with the knowledge that sometimes the best deals are the ones you don't make. Whether that proves true in this case remains to be seen, but Friday's waiver results suggest modern NHL management believes patience and precision matter more than aggressive opportunity pursuit. The Connor Ingram waiver saga perfectly captures the tension between old-school hockey instincts and modern analytical approaches. So is this a case of 31 teams being too smart for their own good, or did they collectively recognize red flags that fans and media missed entirely? And for Oilers supporters specifically, does this decision represent the kind of conservative approach that wins championships, or another example of management failing to seize obvious improvement opportunities when they present themselves? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story raises fundamental questions about how teams should balance risk and reward in today's NHL, and we're genuinely curious whether you think the Oilers made the right call or just missed their best chance to solve their goaltending concerns.